Welcome to Pet Pals. I'm Dee Dee, and this is Randy, and we're at Frederick County Animal Control and Adoption Center on Rosemont Avenue, bringing you some adoptable animals. And our first guest is Winston. Winston is a cream tabby domestic short hair, and he is 2 years old, a male, and he was previously owned. His owners gave him up because they had allergies. Someone in their family was allergic to cats, and they brought him to us in hopes that we would find him a new home. He is color-coded orange, which means he is not quite a lap cat, but not quite independent enough to not care if you're there. He certainly likes people, but in our studio, we have some parakeets off camera. He definitely wants to explore, check things out, and he's brave enough to do so even in a new place. So he's going to make a nice family pet. The family that he came from kept him up to date on his shots, so he has a rabies shot that's still good until November. The nice thing about that is when you adopt a cat from the animal shelter, you get a coupon for a discount or even full payment depending on the hospital you choose to use for his rabies shot. You can use that in November to get the new one. So since his rabies shot is up to date, you get that little extra bonus when you adopt from us, since we do not have to provide him with vaccinations quite yet. The other thing that's nice about a cat that's from a family that kept him up to date is that we provide you with his past vet records. So it's nice to know that he was receiving regular care, and then you can continue to do so. It is spring, so we expect very soon to have our barrage of tiny kittens. So if you have been thinking about getting a kitten, please don't hesitate. Come in and see what we have. We will expect in April to be full with tiny little kittens. But if you are not looking for a tiny curtain climbing, bookcase crashing being in your life that eats earrings and chases string and rubber bands, then perhaps Winston is the cat for you. We are back with our next guest. This beautiful green-eyed gray tabby is named Sparky, and Sparky is also 2 years old. He is a neutered male, also previously owned, and he lived with kids and had all the experience of being a pet, so we can share with you his past care. He's a big kitty. He weighs about 17 pounds, and we have him color-coded blue, which means lap cat, as you can plainly see. One thing his previous owners did say about him, which is common of many, many cats, is that he's afraid of the vacuum cleaner. So it's just something to know. And when you get a new cat, we ask you to keep them in the bathroom for a week when you first introduce them to your house anyway. And that is so that they can hear things like the vacuum cleaner outside the door, different sounds of your house. If you have other pets, they'll become aware that the other pet is living there before they have to meet face to face. One thing that can happen to cats is if you bring them home and just plop them down in the middle of the house, they might hole up someplace inconvenient for you, or they might meet your existing pet, have a bad surprise interaction, and not get over that very easily. I don't want to say that cats hold a grudge, because that would be unfair to generalize to all of them. But when cats have a shocking bad experience, it takes them longer to recover from that than it would a family-oriented animal, an animal that lives in a family in its natural state, like a dog or a human or a herd animal. Cats are solitary hunters, and while they do like to live with the few friends that they accept, they are not equipped to deal with very upsetting social situations and then recover quickly. So Sparky really likes people. In the home that he was in, he didn't live with any other pets, so we don't know how he feels about other dogs and cats. But he's got an adaptive personality, and he probably, with your help introducing him properly, could handle whatever situation awaits him. If you think that Sparky would make a good match for you or someone that you know, let us know or pass this picture around. You gonna leave?
You think her laugh's better than mine?
Our next guest is Harmony, and I'm not sure how much you can tell on camera, but compared to the two boys you just met, this little girl is tiny. She is very petite. She probably weighs maybe 7-8 pounds, and she is a medium-haired brown tabby. And it might seem silly for me to tell you what color the cat is that you are looking at on TV, but there are a couple of reasons I do that. And number one is in case someone is listening to the audio and not necessarily seeing the video, but also because if you lose a cat or find a cat, it's pretty important that you're able to describe the cat over the phone, either to us or an owner who's calling you. And it is, the colors of cats is probably just about as fancy as the breeds of dogs. So this brown tabby, whether they have short hair, medium hair, or long hair is important. Whether they have a tail or no tail, whether they have extra toes, whether they have hair tufts coming out of their ears, all of these things can help you describe a cat. And the kitty that you just met was a gray tabby. All tabby means is striped like a tiger. And it doesn't matter if the stripes are long and straight or swirled around, it's a tabby. And then almost every tabby cat is brown or orange, but rarely you're going to find a striped cat that has not a brown or dark hair on it, and we call that gray tabby. So I know this is really confusing, but as I describe the cats that come out over the episodes, I'll do the best I can to point out what we call them. The reason it's so important to me is that I don't know if you can see the top of her head, but the top of her head is completely solid black where the stripes all come together. And we had a woman who called us and reported that her black cat was lost. So of course we said, come in person just to be sure, but you know, we'll keep an eye out. So when she came in, she picked out a cat that looked just like this. And I said, oh my gosh, you told us the cat was black. And she said, well, he's solid black on top of his head. So what happened is, if she would have not come in person, which she did, so it wasn't a problem, but if she had not come in person and told us she was looking for her black cat, we would have never called her if her cat came in, because we call these brown tabbies. And it certainly doesn't matter how specific you are, because if you tell us that your cat has tiger stripes and is brown and gray and tan, we're going to know. It's just important to be as accurate as you can when you're describing a lost cat by phone. It's even better if you have a picture. So anyone who has a cat and has a smartphone, take your smartphone out right now, take a picture of your cat, and save that, because if you are ever separated from your cat, whether it be for an animal sheltering situation or in an emergency, or there are a lot of things that happen that separate people from their animals. So this little brown tabby, I haven't told you much about her, came to us as a stray. So what we know about her is how much she likes people. She probably was someone's pet. She probably is not spayed, which we are going to take care of. And then we are looking for someone to take her in and give her a future. She is only a year or a year and a half old. So she has plenty of time left to give. And as you can see, she's quite lovely, quite cooperative, and ready to make somebody really happy. Our next guest is Nico. Nico is a male black cat with beautiful green eyes, and he is also much smaller than the first two boys that you met. And while cats do not come in the extreme size differences that dogs do, there actually are extra tiny cats called teacup-sized cats, and there are extra large cats like Maine Coons, but they do fall within a range of about 20 pounds to 7 as adults, rather than dogs that can be anywhere from 2 pounds to, you know, over 150. So Nico is all black and came from a house that had kids, and so he's used to some activity. We have him color-coded as orange, I believe, And that means that he doesn't have to be a lap cat. He doesn't have to be held all the time and be with you all the time. But he is, yes, except we want him to hold still now for your sake. He is here because his family moved, and they had to move to a place that didn't allow pets. And one of the things that is complicated for people who are renting is, of course, your landlord has a tremendous amount of power over some of the choices that you make. And one of the reasons that landlords do not welcome pets is people that have in the past been irresponsible, not cleaned up after their pets, not housed their pets properly, not trained their pets properly, or allowed damage to go unrepaired. So obviously this is a twofold problem. Number one is convincing your landlord, which we talked about last week, to accept pets by going the extra mile and bringing documentation and training your pet. But the other one is being a responsible tenant when you have pets. Make sure that you don't ruin it for others by being responsible, taking good care of your pet, and making your pet a non-issue for your landlord. This little guy is going to make somebody a very good pet. He's 3 to 4 years old, so he has lots of time to give. He is used to children and has a lot of energy, so he'll be a lot of fun. He's also very pretty, and even though he is one solid color, you're going to meet in a minute another black cat who has a completely different physical appearance. Oh yeah, and Randy's saying he might have a sad story. He's got an impressive scar on his ear, so that is something we don't know about, and he is not talking about, so we're never going to know the full story. But maybe he's a tough guy. If you are interested in a cat of any color, please let us know. If Nico in particular interests you, come and meet him. Our next guest is Selena, and Selena is a 2-year-old black cat with green eyes, also has short hair. She has a rounder face than our previous guest, who has a more Siamese look. And obviously when we're talking about short-haired black cats with green eyes, they really do look alike unless they're your own companion, in which case you can tell them apart so easily. But for purposes of introducing you to her, she was left behind on a farm, kind of a strange situation. So there is a farm that rents out houses on the property, and the residents there saw a sign that said the caretaker has moved away, and for now everyone is free to remain until further notice. So, you know, that's kind of a frightening sign to see at the place where you live. And shortly after that sign went up, 2 cats were found wandering the property that are friendly and people-oriented. So one of the gentlemen who lives there brought them in to make sure a couple of things. Number one, if they're lost and their owner is looking for them, that they'd be able to find them here. And number two, if they were left behind and abandoned, that we at our animal control officers can pursue, you know, did someone abandon them and do they need to be held accountable? And then third, to make sure that they do get a home if we don't find their previous owner is looking for them, or that they're, if someone abandoned them is not qualified to take care of them, that we find them somebody who will look out for them. If you know of someone who might be interested in a lovely, friendly black cat, then pass her picture around and we will see if we can find her a future. We are going to be back after a short break with more adoptable animals from Frederick County Animal Control and Adoption Center on Rosemont Avenue. Hope you join us.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Are you looking for that perfect spot for your child's next birthday party? Look no farther. Frederick County Parks and Recreation can fulfill all your birthday party needs. Choose from any of our rec center locations. Your party rental includes tables, chairs, paper products, on-site facility supervisor, and much more. Pricing for our parties is $120 for 2 hours in our rec room, or $170 for 2 hours in our rec room and gymnasium. For more information and availability, call 301-600-2936 or visit us on the web at www.recreator.com.
Welcome back to Pet Pals. This is Stiletto, and Stiletto is part Chihuahua, possibly part Pomeranian. She has quite the bushy tail, and Stiletto is available for adoption. She is 3 or 4 years old, and this is a story that is really important for people to understand. We are the only shelter in Frederick County, all 600 and some miles. If there is a lost dog, a lost cat, an unwanted pet, a dangerous animal, they will end up here, and we will respond to the calls for those things. We do have in Frederick County a couple private charities. The Animal Welfare League rescues cats from the street and helps do spay-neuter, and they have adoption events around the county. They don't have a shelter, and they don't take in lost animals. They don't necessarily take unwanted pets, but they do if they can. And then the Humane Society in Frederick County doesn't take in animals. They periodically have some foster kittens, but they do programs like Quick Fix for neutering cats in the winter. They also do, they used to have grief counseling. I think they still have that. They have rabies clinics. So if you are looking for a lost pet, we need to know, because this little dog, and this is perfectly legal, was found 3 months ago by a private citizen who kept her. That means that whoever was looking for her 3 months ago would have never found her. They would have had no way of knowing where she was if they called us. We never found her. After 3 months, often people give up, even though we encourage people not to do so. So if someone was missing her 3 months ago, they probably have stopped looking for her and don't even know she's here at the shelter. Now, because she has no ID, she has no collar, she had no microchip. We put in a microchip, so now she will be identifiable. But that means that the person who kept her for 3 months probably prevented her from being reunited with her family, if someone even wants her back. So it is good for her to be on TV, so that if someone is looking for her from 3 months ago, or if you know someone who lost their Chihuahua type Pomeranian a few months ago, please let them know. She could be here at the shelter. Now, after all of that said and done, she needs a home. So she's here, she's available for adoption. We were not able to find anyone who was looking for her. And the woman who found her 3 months ago was not able to keep her. She is moving on to a new place where she can't have the dog. So this little girl is in need of a new home. If you think she would be a good match for you or someone that you know, then please share her picture, come in and meet her. She's a cutie, and she's gonna make somebody really happy. We are back with Mabel and Daisy. And Mabel and Daisy are two beagle mixes that one is 7 years old and one is 8 years old. It's okay, sweetie. And they are in the shelter together, and they're very attached to each other. So what we would like, and obviously, come here, sweetie, we don't require it because it would take somebody with an awfully big heart to do it. But that is to adopt them both together. Randy's going to switch so he can be more soothing to poor little Daisy, who's more scared. Is that we would like to adopt Mabel and Daisy together. They've been together for most of their lives, and we notice when we separate them in the cages that that's hard on them. So more for Daisy than for Mabel, as you can plainly see. So we want to find someone who would be willing to take both girls. And one of the things that people often say, oh gosh, I'm not sure if I want 2 dogs. Since these dogs already have lived together most of their lives, the great thing is that they are company for each other. So if you have a busy schedule such that you're going to expect them to be home during the days together, you could make that work for them so that they can continue to have a great life as roommates, which they have always been. One thing for them both is they both need to lose a little bit of weight. They are mixed beagles, but whatever their other half isn't counteracting enough their beagle part, because beagles are easy keepers. They're made to not need too much food, and that means that you don't have to spend a lot of money on dog food, but you do want to buy a high quality dog food. These guys could walk with you on your power walks. They could share healthy meals with you, and would be really great companions for somebody who has a big heart. We are back with Gunner, and Gunner, yes, see, he knows his name. Gunner is the training team's favorite dog. He is one of the few dogs in the shelter that will sit when you ask him to, lie down when you ask him to, and while he does pull on the leash, that is a perfectly workable situation, but it is this happy tail wagging dog. He wags his tail so fast and so hard whenever he sees people that we actually have blankets hanging in his cage so he won't hit the side of the cage and sting his tail. He is a wonderful, wonderful dog. He's been to outings with the shelter staff, see, very well trained, where he has met with other dogs. But we think that he's been in the shelter quite some time for several reasons. Number one, we have the blankets hanging in his cage, so his cage looks weird. Number two, when you approach the cage, if he doesn't know you, he barks behind the fence like a good dog should. Once you open it, tail wagging, happy dog. He doesn't jump up on people. This is such a nice dog. And he's been on TV before, so you've seen Gunner before. He's on Pet Finder with several portraits. Oh, he's very vocal too. He talks a lot and is very communicative.
He's been on outings.
Yes, and he is just a really, really good dog. Obviously, he's still a puppy, and he's about 2 years old. And since Gunner came to us as a stray, we don't know anything about him before he came here, except that he has awfully great people skills. And one of the hard things for us to accept, but it is true, he's also big and brindle. And that means a lot of landlords won't allow him. And that means that some people, even though they might like to have this dog, are not going to be able to. And Gunner has really gotten attached to us and we to him because he's a really good dog. If you think that Gunner would be a good dog for you, or you know somebody who would be interested, then please come and meet him, pass this picture around, because he has definitely endeared himself to us. This is Ralph, and Ralph is an adult satin or Rex rabbit that was found in Frederick, and he was found running around with a little Dutch rabbit, and it took the family that first saw them a day or two to corral them. And they told us that Ralph was very comfortable with their kids holding him and paying attention to him. And the Dutch bunny, who is also available for adoption, was a little more shy. So I didn't make him be on TV today. And one of the reasons that I wanted to let you meet some of our rabbits is that prior to Easter, we have probably 8 rabbits in the shelter, and we also have guinea pigs and birds, and often have animals that you wouldn't expect to find in a dog and cat shelter, hamsters, yes. So I really want everybody to remember that if you're looking for a pet, any kind of pet, that pet might very well be in the shelter, and that we have a wish list feature so that if you wanted to let us know what kind of pet you want, we could call you when we get one. But at this time of year, if anyone thought of bringing home a bunny for Easter, a lot of times people ask, do we get a whole bunch of rabbits right after Easter? No, we don't. When we get them is around Christmas time, and I will tell you why. So you get a tiny, cute, adorable bunny in the spring, which is when they're born. And you put a cage in your living room, and the kids play with the bunny all the time because he's so little and cute, and they get really attached to him. And then you have the summer where kids are out of school and being responsible, taking care of the rabbit. And then everyone goes back to school in the fall. And then the rabbit is sort of big for the little cage that you bought him that's in the living room. And the cage is kind of messy in the center of the house. So you think about building him a hutch outside. And the things that happen to a rabbit kept in a hutch outside, I don't really want to explain in detail because it's very sad. But number one is they can't handle the summer weather in Maryland. It's too much for a rabbit. It's too hot. They get parasites, mites, fleas, fly bites on their ears. They can even get fly larvae on them. The cage has to be spotlessly clean or it will attract nuisance insects. But the other thing that happens is there are dogs in the neighborhood that can open or dismantle rabbit hutches. So keeping a rabbit outside in a hutch is really dangerous, especially if you live where there are coyotes or weasels who can get into pretty much any containment you can invent. And then what happens is winter sets in and people feel that the rabbit will be too cold outside. Now, while that is true, some cold weather is really hard on rabbits. If they have a nest box, it's not as bad for them to be out in the winter as it is for them to be out in the summer, but still, living outside in a box is no life for a living, breathing, sentient, friendly being. So, rabbits are also social. So if they're out there alone, they have no companionship. So we recommend House Rabbit Society for information about how to make your rabbit a real pet. And then we get a lot of rabbits in the winter here at the shelter. Now, are they last year's Easter bunnies? Hard to say, because some of the rabbits are 3 or 4 years old. So in some cases, they've passed through a couple of homes, and in some cases, they've been with the same family for the whole time. So there are pet stores that sell bunnies, and they try very hard to educate you about the 10-year commitment that you're making. And you can also check out on YouTube agility rabbits or the herding rabbit and see really what they have to offer. They are as interactive as dogs and cats, and they really need someone to commit to them like any pet would. A lot of times people get rabbits thinking that they're going to be easier than a dog, and in some ways they are, because they don't have to be walked around the block. They don't need shots every year, but they should still have a veterinary checkup every year to make sure that they are maintaining their weight and they're not having any problems. If you are familiar with horses, caring for horses, rabbits are very much like horses in that they eat hay, they have sensitive tummies to new food, and so they do require some monitoring on a regular basis to make sure that they stay healthy. So thanks for joining us on Pet Pals. We will be back next week with more adoptable animals, and I hope you join us then. In the meantime, come by the shelter. We can always use donations of linens and towels and used pet products and food. We will definitely, oh yeah, we still need indestructible toys. That's going to be very helpful to our big dogs. So we will see you next time. Thanks for joining us.